But not Arizona, even though 2 of the deaths have been in Phoenix, in Sheriff Arpaio's jails. In Phoenix, Arizona, Sheriff Joe Arpaio often takes TV crews around his half a dozen jails. It's almost a choreographed routine for him, stressing the tough conditions, the convict uniforms, the terrible food.
They know if they mess around, they're going to end up eating bread and water. Criminals are murderers. I'm sorry, alleged murderers. They haven't been convicted yet.
The county jails hold those awaiting trial and those convicted of minor crimes. Phoenix voters like his treat 'em mean policy. He's been elected 3 times.
And you were in prison, now you're back here again, and you're going back again.
Yeah.
Why can't you straighten up?
Because I'm a criminal.
No.
Because you know why?
No, you're only a criminal because you want to be a criminal.
But strip away the showmanship of Sheriff Arpaio and you hit a far more brutal allegation. That inside his jails, prisoners are beaten, tortured, even killed. Charles Agster was mentally handicapped and a drug user. He weighed only 9 stone. 4 years ago, he was arrested in a late-night store for causing a nuisance. His parents assumed he'd just be held overnight in jail.
The telephone rang, and it's the emergency room. And they said, well, your son is here, and he's very bad. We don't know if he's going to live through the night.
The horror of Charles Agster's last hours is captured by cameras inside Madison Street Jail.
He was dragged in like a suitcase. He was hogtied. A policeman was kicking him.
Charles was struggling, so 9 jail staff force him into a restraint chair, still handcuffed. One kneels on his stomach. They bend him forward to undo the handcuffs and restrap him into the chair.
If it takes 9 people to put them, like to put Charles in a chair, do you know, if that's not torture, I don't know what is.
About 15 minutes later, a nurse notices Charles Agster unconscious. She checks, pinching his face, putting ammonia under his nose, but still no one removes the spit mask or frees him from the chair. We found training documents from the sheriff's own department. These clearly warn prisoners must be uncuffed before going into the chair. Bending someone double can be one cause of what's known as positional asphyxia. Despite frantic efforts to resuscitate Charles Agster, he was already brain dead. His parents are now suing a defiant sheriff.
You can see all the videos you want. Videos don't always tell the true story.
But you're not denying that he's put in the chair with his hands handcuffed behind his back?
I'm not familiar with all that as far as the handcuffs, but I'm telling you right now, we did nothing wrong. I don't like to lose anybody in jail, under any circumstances, but when you run a jail system or a prison system, you're bound sometimes to have some deaths that occur.
But Scott Norberg's death suggests no lessons have been learnt. 5 years earlier, he was dragged across the same jail, confused but not aggressive, and forced into the chair handcuffed. A towel was put over his mouth to stop him spitting. In a later video statement, an officer admitted she warned her colleague Scott Norberg was in difficulty.
I told him that he was turning blue or purple. I don't think he was breathing, and he said, who gives a fuck?
You said what?
Who gives a fuck? And it's some sort of, he's still going to fight.
Scott Norberg suffocated. The county's insurers paid his family over $8 million. There were no criminal charges.
I'm not going to argue this case, it's over, but let me say this. If I did anything wrong on my officers, I would have been hung. They checked everything out, my officers were clear, there was no problems with that case. So I think that tells you the bottom line.
If there had been no problems, they wouldn't have paid out $8.25 million to settle it, would they?
That was the insurance firm. They were afraid to go before a jury.
The sheriff's promise to make prison as grim as possible hasn't deterred the criminals. He put up Tent City as a cheap way of housing the rising numbers. The inmate population has doubled during his 12 years in office.
You rather be in a Mexican prison?
Absolutely.
That's the worst prison jail in the world. You rather be there?
I'd rather be there than here.
We treat you worse than the Mexicans in Mexico?
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Okay.
The sheriff enjoys hearing inmates complain about conditions. He's less happy when it comes to allegations of brutality. Brian Crenshaw was registered blind. 2 years ago, he was serving 6 months because of a shoplifting offence.
There was a message on the answer machine from the hospital stating that Brian was there and in very critical condition. I called and I talked to the doctor